My name is Soleil. I'm 19. I'm from Florida. I'm a DoorDasher, and while I DoorDash, I listen to audiobooks. And then whenever I'm done DoorDashing, I will go home and I will draw the characters from those audiobooks. But I I've been into fandom for a long time. I know a lot of my generation is. I didn't really know that fan art was a thing. I would draw the Stranger Things characters in class in like 2017. They didn't post it anywhere, and I didn't know that it was a thing. But in 2020, that was when I first read Percy Jackson, and that was when I started drawing fan art because I wanted the characters to be real because I had the visions in my mind and I needed to make them physical. Having the idea that I wanted to draw something in my mind made me want to pay attention to details and form fully actualized picture in my mind. I do picture the characters kind of different than the books just because with their personalities and the way that they're written, sometimes I'll imagine like physical details that kind of go with that personality, like stereotypically. But yeah, so my friend told me about the Raven cycle about a year ago, and I was like, "Oh wow, this sounds very interesting." He told me about Ronan specifically, and I was like, "Oh wow, this character, very interesting character." And then my friend got the audiobooks in January. I use their Audible account, so I usually only read books once they get them. Read them all within that first month and I was just obsessed. I loved them so much, and I loved all the characters and friendship and found family. Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah. I'm Arrow Ace, so I put a lot of value into friendships, and I care about my friends so much. And for a lot of my childhood, I like did not have really close friends, but now I do, and it's just so wonderful. I love friendship and the different dynamics that friendship can have. I project on the Raven cycle a lot because my friend group, um, each, each of us relates to one of the Raven cycle characters, and our dynamic is very similar to the Raven cycle characters. So implementing that into my real life like makes me very happy because they get to experience so many magical things and a lot of times it's difficult but they do get through it because they have each other and that's quite wonderful and the whole fandom I've found is um it's quite wonderful because they're all smart and they like to think about the Raven cycle a lot, and they bring up points that I've never thought of, and I can implement things into my fan art that other people have thought of, and I think it's a quite wonderful place to be. My favorite character in the Raven cycle is definitely Ronan. Yeah, I feel like he's the most fleshed out, and there's just so much nuance going on with him. Blue is my favorite to draw, because she's pretty, and there's so many different ideas with, like, outfits, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with Blue, but Ronan, I just think about him all the time, like, anytime I back and have nothing to think about, I'm like, "Oh, Ronan, he's in there." It's funny because I tend to be drawn to characters who are really mean for some reason, um, but they're mean because they have a really traumatic past, like Six of Crows, my favorite character is Kaz. I like his mental illness a lot, all of his internal struggles. I think they're very reflective of real stuff, even though he has so much magical um stuff going on. I had never really been so involved in a fandom before I was involved with the Raven cycle, but now I'm friends with like cosplayers and other artists and it's really fun to be able to see their interpretations of the characters and I can like look back on the books and see what they got, how they got their ideas. I really enjoy the community because I love to think back on things that I've missed and other people's interpretations of things. And I don't know, the whole fandom thing I think is really special because everyone is coming together over something that we all love, which that's quite beautiful. Of course, there are downsides because when so many people love something and then people disagree about a certain opinion with that thing, things can get rough. Like, I've seen a lot of discourse about the way that some of the characters are being drawn for the graphic novel that was just announced. And I don't know, a lot of different interpretations people get upset about, but I like to hear their reasoning and know why they did things and decide in my own mind if it was right. I don't really argue with people. That's not my thing, but I will silently judge. I'll be like, I don't think that this character is doing that, but you think what you want. I listen to a lot of music.
Mhm.
My friends also make playlists, and I don't know, I just listen to a whole bunch of songs and I look at the lyrics and I think about the like kind of vibe and how it sounds, like the genre and stuff. And I'm like, well, does this fit this character? I think it does, or it doesn't. And also with my playlists, I usually make them in an order that
Mhm.
goes kind of with the story and also so that the songs will kind of flow into each other. Sometimes it's difficult because they'll come from a lot of different bands. Oh, relating to characters is so wonderful because it can let you self-reflect and look at your own issues and stuff that you might not see as well. You might look at a character and be like, wow, I really relate to this person. And you might have trouble analyzing yourself, but I feel like it's kind of easier to analyze a character, and then you can look at their flaws and their positives and work ways into your life to fix those negatives or I don't know, work in those positives. Like I really, really relate to Gamzee. I relate to a lot of his like positive aspects and then I'm like, okay, I must do all of these things that Gansey does because then I will be a good person. It also feels good to relate to a character that other people love so much because then you're like, oh, I'm kind of being loved like through them. It has made me a better person, honestly, relating to Gansey because so many people really like Gansey, and I implement a lot of his personality into my life, which I was already like him to begin with, but I've picked up a lot of his mannerisms and other things and his habits that make him productive and able to do things and interact with people. Yeah, I think overall it's made me a better person and do more for people.